Today, law is seen as just another high-earning career. The bar is not recognized as part of the governance of the nation, as a profession for public good, as a profession which can use law as an instrument for positive social change. The bar is not recognized as somebody who is a keeper of society. It is seen only as somebody who is organized to look after the interests of the lawyers alone. Now, we do face a leadership vacuum in the bar. Who is to fill this vacuum? Is it the government? It's my firm belief that it is not to be the government that fills this vacuum. It has to be civil society, and civil society alone. It is our collective responsibility to force the bar to act, just as much as it is our collective responsibility to ensure that the government does not interfere in bar regulation. Today, when public confidence in the legal system is at its lowest, the government has proposed a legal practitioners bill that will make the bar subject to governmental control. That, I believe, will be the most unfortunate thing to happen to this country. And let me give you my reasons for this thinking. I like to think of the bar as a reflection of the strength of a country's enlightened citizenry. The bar represents the people's movement. The bar is the pulse of a democracy. If our bar has denigrated to levels where the Bentleys and chartered flights are more valuable, then that is a reflection of the fall in our societal standards. When you watch the movie Gandhi by Richard Attenborough, you will see a scene where the nation's leaders are all gathered together to discuss what is the course of action we must take against this colonial power. Who are the persons? Jinnah, Nehru, Gandhi, Sardar Patel, all members of the bar. Now, if our bar was enthused enough to challenge the might of a colonial occupier, that was a reflection of the societal mood of the day. Along with the NGOs, the civil activists, the bar must also shoulder the responsibility of thinking big for every section of society. Governments may come and go, coalitions may come and go, political ideologies which are in fashion may change, but the enlightened citizens platform, which is the bar, the NGOs, civil activists, they must remain unfettered and always guarded on behalf of the citizens. And that is the true check and balance in a democracy. Can you imagine if the government was given the power to tell an NGO, no, Bhagwanji, you are criticizing the government too much, you are filing way too many PILs, and therefore I am going to place a fetter on your license to function as an NGO. Can you imagine if the government is given the power to tell an Arnab Goswami or a Manoj Mitta, I think you criticize the government way too much, you criticize too many of our systems, and therefore I will place a fetter in some form or the other on your right to practice as a journalist. Can you imagine if Prashant Bhushan tomorrow is told that you are questioning 2G, 3G, KG Balakrishnan, you're questioning all this too much and making a nuisance in the newspapers every day, and therefore I will find a way of ensuring that your license to practice is kept fettered, or you keep running around trying to keep it free. No, NGOs, civil activists, the bar, the media, the police, the CBI, these all must never be under governmental regulation. They must always be independent. Now, when the bar weakens, corrupt politicians and dictators have always had a field day. It was the bar in Pakistan, remember, that led the protests in the streets against General Musharraf's dictatorial actions. 2 years back, there was a military coup in Fiji. One of the first things that the cousters did was to dismiss their entire judiciary and to arrest their leading lawyers, and that effectively silenced the citizenry. When the Khmer Rouge took over in Cambodia, one of the first things Pol Pot did was kill the lawyers, and that effectively ensured that he had an unfettered way ahead for his plans. In Zimbabwe today, there is a very severe, violent dictatorship on. People walk into farms, people's farms, shoot them down and take over their properties. Before this dictatorial regime came in, their lawyers were practically put into an aircraft and sent out. During emergency, even in India, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi tried to take control of the bar by bringing in an amendment which said that all Bar Council leadership posts will be held by government appointed officers. That was opposed and subsequently withdrawn the year later. We must remember that the bar is a country's hope, and preserving the independence of the judiciary necessarily means preserving the independence of the bar and the legal system entirely. Having said that, yes, there are very serious problems today in the bar. The Bar Council needs to be aggressively told to self-regulate proactively. The truth is, in the 60 years following independence, we have had no regulation at all. The Bar Council has seemed to think that self-regulation means no regulation. There are a series of things the Bar Council needs to do to call itself a self-regulatory body. It must have in place systems by which laws are made or rules are made, rules are implemented, complaints against lawyers are dealt with, disciplinary action is taken. It must have rules by which legal education is actively monitored. It has rules, but none of that is happening. It has not done it. The men who man the institutions, that entire institution has got so caught up in politicking, dirty elections, in money power. I understand that law college managements, spurious law college managements pay bribes to Bar Council members so that their poor quality law colleges are allowed to stay open. How many students' lives are affected? An institution is being emasculated because of this poor supervision which is being done by the Bar Council, and they must be forced to act. So if civil society can push this, I mean, each one of you here represents organizations which has the backing of 50 people. If civil society could tell the Bar Council in the form of, I don't know, hundreds of telegrams or whatever methods you choose, that see, yes, we are criticizing the judicial system, but when we say judicial system, it's not the judges we are looking at, we are also looking at what you as an organized body are doing. You as an organized body is failing society, and do something about it. And I think decent lawyers in the bar, hearing stuff like this from the civil society, will be wakened up enough to form a critical mass enough to bring up some reforms. Today we don't have that critical mass as an organized body. So while it is good to see that today lots and lots of people are talking and media is writing about judicial corruption, there must be a concerted exposure to the need for bar reforms. We cannot micromanage the problem of delayed justice and backlog of cases unless we address this fundamental issue. All other problems will get sorted out once we have an awakened Bar Council that does not hesitate to use its powers. I am of the school of thought which says you can keep creating institutions, you can keep adding one more supervisory body, but ultimately you need to have a system by which the institution that looks after the people who are going to man these institutions, that institution must be vigilant. That institution which grooms the people to man those institutions, that must be a vigilant power. Thank you.